Janome.
I am Michael Smith, the National Education Manager of Janome, Canada, and I'm back live, yes, from my palatial estate in Collingwood on a snowy day here in Ontario. So yes, let us get started. Faux fur. Oh yes, how do we work with it? What's it all about? Look at those beautiful examples there. Now this, I'll try to hold the camera steady. This is a big infinity scarf that I just made. It's so fun. It's just a big, long rectangle of fabric, and you just basically sew the two ends together, and it's this big, beautiful, long wrap of faux fur. Or how about every little scrap? Oh yes, I made this little extra Barbie coat, of course. Oh geez, sorry about that. Or doll coat. Yes, you can get a nice close-up of the fur. So again, you can use all your little scraps for any sort of doll coats or clothes, or how about like a bedspread, for the doll bed. But it's so fun, all this faux fur. It's really surprisingly easy to work with. It may look very complicated, but no, it's very easy. This is a big scarf. It's just a big long rectangle of fabric. It was just the leftover piece, which I lined, and I put this little pocket in here, stitched with some decorative stitches on the sewing machine, and then there's a pocket. You could add a zipper in here, or some snaps, or maybe some hook and loop tape, something like that. But then this way, if the scarf is, around your neck there, then you've got some goodies in your little pocket here and nobody knows. So isn't that cool? But yes, you'll see again how forgiving this fabric is, because right here, for example, I have a line of stitching that helps hold this lining to the fur, like it's stitched all around the outside edge. But I put in a couple of places these vertical lines right through the faux fur, right through the lining, just to hold it together. But, you really wouldn't know, would you, where that line of stitching is? It's actually right here. Can you see that? No, I can't. So that's the wonderful thing about this faux fur, is like, it's so easy to work with. You never see any kind of top stitching or anything that you may need to do. Again, there is no need for real top stitching, no need for real edge stitching or anything. Everything, you stitch the lining in, you flip it right side out, and that's it. It's so easy. So the main thing is, and they look so realistic. So the main thing is how we can tell when we're examining our pelt, for example, of our faux fur. And you can pick this up in a lot of fabric stores. Again, they look so realistic now these days. But yes, even from the back, look, that almost looks like a leather hide, an animal hide. But you can just give it a little tug on the end, and then yes, it will come apart. And you can see, well, there is the knit backing, is how these faux furs, and there is a little stretch here widthwise going around your body, because again, it's a knit backing. So even though the back of the fabric may look like, that looks like leather, but no, it is not. It's just fake. It's a really good imitation. So that's how you can really tell that, yes, this is definitely an imitation. You may be able to, peel back this pile enough where you can see a bit of the knit backing in here, but you really have to look close. So that's usually the easiest way. Just peel that back. So yes, our beautiful faux fur. Now, where to buy this fluffy material? Well, again, at most fabric stores would carry it. Especially larger fabric stores, some of those chain fabric stores. But again, double check with your Janome dealer. A lot of our Janome dealers do carry fabric, so double check with them if they carry it. Now, as far as the big faux fur, yes, it is just like an animal pelt, of a real animal. So again, we can definitely see this would be like the nap of the fabric. You're going to, if this were, my beautiful cat, we would be petting from the head, down to the tail. So we want that fur to go down. Oh, from Mexico City. Hello, hello. Oh, again, I don't know if you'd... Well, I suppose you'd have faux fur in Mexico. I'm thinking a lot of people look at the faux fur thinking it's going to be extra warm. I wouldn't say it's particularly extra warm because it is that knit fabric, but it looks really warm. So again, I'm not sure if Mexico would have it, but again, generally your larger fabric stores. So we want to pay attention to, again, the grain or the nap of the fabric, the hairs. We definitely want to go down. So if this is going to be a coat, then we want the fur to go down. And generally there is more of a stretch going widthways across your body. There is a stretch widthways. So it's very fun and very forgiving. Now, when we're actually cutting down this pelt, we'll call it, the fabric, then I find it's really easy to, again, fold over. And this is how you're going to prevent a million pieces of this fur flying everywhere. We don't just want to cut into and use your nice long sharp scissors. We don't just want to arbitrarily cut and start hacking into this fur. What I like doing is taking short little snips, and I tip my scissors up. Instead of just flat across my fabric, I actually tip them up a little bit. So they're going to cut more of this knit backing. We don't really want to cut this fur in between. So, these little tips help. So again, we've got the fur going down from the top of the, animal down. But again, this is faux fur. So no, not real. But then yes, so this is the bottom. The fur is going down to the hem here. So what I like doing though is cutting then from the bottom up. I like cutting opposite from the grain. The fur's, going from the bottom down. I like going from the top down. I like cutting from the bottom up. And I find, again, with these little short snips, and again, I'm angling my scissors up into that knit backing, and little by little, I'm not hacking into it. I'm just little by little by little by little. And this way, there is not as much fluff. There will be a little bit of hair coming off, but there is not as much. Look at that. There really is not that much coming off. If you cut from in the direction of the fur, if you cut from the top down, now maybe it depends on the fur, but on this fur in particular, when I cut from the top down, I had way more fur flying as I cut. Way more was coming off. But when I cut... And this is how normally I cut, even with regular fabric. If I'm cutting out a coat or a skirt, for example, I cut from the bottom up. So when I did that, and again, angling my scissors up, so I'm going more to the knit fabric. I'm not disturbing that fur as much. So again, there's not nearly as much fur flying. I will caution you though, when you do so with faux fur, it will be all over your sewing room. There's no way around it. Again, this little offcut, oh, well, there's Barbie's new wrap, so again, you save everything. But yeah, so that's a little tip of how to avoid all that extra fur flying everywhere. Now, when we go to actually seam it, though, our goal is to try to... There is a seam in here. Again, I'm going this way. There is a seam in here, but again, you really can't see it very much at all. And that's our goal. We want to look like this is a whole continuous piece of fur. So instead of a regular straight stitch, is usually what we're sewing with, I like using a little zigzag stitch, and this way our seam, instead of a big 5/8 seam allowance, if your pattern calls for a 5/8 seam allowance, cut back your seam allowance on your pattern to approximately about 1/4 of an inch, and then instead of a straight stitch, we use a zigzag stitch. And that way, again, we have way less fur in that seam. And again, it really looks like almost continuous. Now, other little secrets we can do on our fabulous machine here. I've got the CM17. Brush or comb the seam line to make it disappear. Yes, Sandra, we can absolutely use a regular comb if we need to brush that out, or I use my fabulous stiletto, which I'll show you in just a moment. So here on my machine, because of this backing of the fur, you know, it can be a little sticky kind of on your needle plate. So here, if your machine is compatible, instead of the regular zigzag needle plate, we've got the fabulous Ultra Glide needle plate, and it is this special resin that's very slick, very slippery. So again, this backing will sometimes be a little sticky. So this, oh, Celine is here. Hello, hello. So this Ultra Glide needle plate will just allow stickier fabrics, you know, vinyl, leather, everything just to glide through very beautifully. So it's called the Ultra Glide needle plate. And in this case, it also comes with a foot. There's an Ultra Glide foot. Now, very important if you're on the Continental M7, the CM17, the Continental M8, or Continental M6. You need to make sure your Ultra Glide needle plate and Ultra Glide foot. For Continental, it'll say M7, but they're the Continental class of machines. Again, with your Ultra Glide foot and your Ultra Glide needle plate, they come together, but it has to be compatible for your machine. If you have a regular 9mm machine, like a 6700 and the 15,000, the Skyline S9, you can take this Ultra Glide needle plate and Ultra Glide foot combo for 9mm machines that are not the Continental machines. Because again, the needle plate, the back of the needle plate is slightly different. But it's this special resin to make everything just glide along, very easily. So again, the foot and the Ultra Glide needle plate combo, they come from your fabulous Janome dealer. So that will help, again, with the hide portion, if it were real fur, the hide portion, it'll help it just slide along. Now, I also have, in this case on the CM17, the dual or twin AccuFeed Flex foot holder, the big wide one. Again, we're going to do a zigzag stitch. Now, if you have another machine, though, your regular even feed or dual feed foot will work just beautifully. Because again, here we've got our seam together where we're sewing our two layers of fur together. So it's a little thick, a little bulky. So this is where this AccuFeed Flex foot holder, or again, if your other sewing machines, your dual feed or even feed foot will definitely help feed those layers more evenly. Now, because I'm on the CM17 here, and again, I'm going to use a zigzag stitch, we have a very special function called the manual dual feed. So typically when we're using our even feed foot or AccuFeed in particular, we don't want to do a zigzag. The machine only wants to do a straight stitch with that foot. But if I go up here to our functions menu and turn on the manual dual feed, now I'm going to be able to use almost every stitch in the machine with that power of AccuFeed. And again, that's exclusive into the Continental range of machines, Continental M7, the CM17, Continental M8, Continental M6. They have that manual dual feed. So now I can use, instead of a straight stitch, I can use a zigzag. Now you do want to test out, we've got a couple of zigzags here. That's our like multi-step zigzag, or we call it a tricot stitch sometimes, that has multiple stitches in that zigzag. Well, that's kind of overkill. We don't really need that. Now, in these stitches here, the zigzag, the R is right needle position, or the M is middle needle position. That's good, but that does back and forth 2 times as it goes into that zigzag. So it's a heavier buildup of thread, which again is kind of overkill. We don't really need it. Instead, I'm going to go stitch number 10. This is R, right needle position. And then when I do my stitch number 10, and again, always do your little sample, we'll see it's just one strand of thread, one pass of thread. So again, in stitch number 14, it went back and forth one way and back and forth the other way, back and forth this way, back and forth that way, in order to make our zigzag stitch. And you can see it's a more pronounced stitch that's extra secure if you need it. And again, in this faux fur, we really don't. It's really not a dense fabric because of that knit backing. Oh, Janome Chile is here. Hello, hello. So this stitch over here to my left, you can barely see, I did right on it. Stitch number 14 is on the right. Stitch number 10 is on the left. It's that more open zigzag, and that's what we're going to use. Stitch number 10, it's just that one strand of thread, you know, or the two strands rather, I guess. It's not as heavy of a buildup, and that's perfectly fine. So that's the stitch I'm going to use. Now, the default of that stitch, though, is a 3.0 width and a 1.5 length. Well, definitely, I want to make that seam allowance a little bigger. Again, maybe about approximately 1/4 of an inch. So I will increase this. Oh, I'll do it all the way up to 6.0. So I'm making a wider zigzag. And especially as we're going through thicker layers, we generally want that, a wider stitch and a longer stitch. Instead of that tight little 1.5, oh, I'm going to try at least a 3.0. Do your little testing and see what works for you. That may sound, oh, it's a little long, but again, because of that extra pile, that extra density, then we need a longer stitch. So we can give that a try in our sample and see how it goes. So here is our machine all set up beautifully. Now, the next thing, when we have our 2 layers of fur here together, what we want to do is tuck in the fur. We don't want the fur caught very much in that seam allowance. So here I'm taking my finger and I'm tucking in both the under layer and the upper layer. I'm trying to get as much fur out of that seam allowance as I can. Now, because it is so thick, because of that extra fur, then oh, and Janome Argentina is here. Hello, hello. Wow, we're all over the world today. Chile and Mexico and Argentina. Because it is thick here, then regular pins can be a little awkward. So I love these binder clips or these bulldog clips, or how about, of course, some red, Janome red. Paper clips, they work really well as well with the plastic, smooth coating of the paper clip. It goes over the 2 layers really easily, or again, these small little binder clips work really well at keeping your layers together better than a pin, and then you don't have to worry about, stabbing yourself too. So a quick little trip to the office supply store to get these, and they're very good. Oh, Janome, Argentina says amazing. Yes, thank you. It's, again, a really simple, easy to use fabric. It looks more complicated than it is. And again, traditional fur, oh yes, you definitely have to do a lot of extra special tips and tricks and extra machines. But in this faux fur, it's much more forgiving. And then again, no animals were harmed in this. So when I'm going to, stitch this in, I'm actually going to have the right side of my needle just off the fabric. And then the left side is going to go over. And again, this is maybe where you want to reduce the speed of your machine. You could adjust the speed control slider if you have one, or just lighten up your foot on the gas. Now, this is where I love my stiletto, or take your seam ripper, and you're just tucking that fur. You don't want it in that seam. You're trying to tuck as much fur out of that seam as you can. And you'll see, again, it's just super easy. That's all it is. It looks more complicated than it is. So that's all that there is to it. You'll just go along, and again, it's very easy to remove these binder clips. Oh God, sorry. The binder clips and the paper clips, it's very easy to remove. So I'll just do that Now, boom. Now, if your machine has it as well, maybe you want to turn on your auto pivot feature. So every time you take your foot off the gas, the needle stays down in the fabric. You can make any of your adjustments as you go along. That auto pivot feature is a great feature. So again, there is my seam just going off the edge of the fur. And then when I open this up, boom, ta-da, like you really do not see very much, whoops, you do not see very much of that seam. It really does get lost in. But then we can go back and either comb it, as Sandra was wondering about, or this is where, again, you can separate it. Oh, I see a little bit of my thread there in my seam allowance. And this is where you take your little seam ripper or your stiletto, and right along the seam, you can just help encourage that nap of the fur just to come up and over that line of stitching. Because sometimes in, again, the zigzag, that'll flatten down the hairs. So this way you're just picking it up, you know, like a comb in your hair. You're just kind of picking it up and taking out that hair out of the seam allowance. So then when you go back, like, boom, like, isn't that beautiful? That just blends in so beautifully. So here I was making another little stole, you know, for a doll. And same thing, you can, oh, sorry, I keep hitting the camera. I'm trying to get in close. Everybody wants close-ups. The ring light is too big. So you can barely see, there's the line of stitching right through the middle of this pelt. And then again, you can go in, ooh, I can see there's my line of red stitching. And again, we just go in and pick out some of that hair from that seam line. So it really doesn't take that long, but I find that extra little step of picking out the hair, that's how you don't see, and again, back on this, you don't see that line of straight stitch at all, because that's exactly what I did. I just went in a little bit with my stiletto or your seam ripper to pull out the hair from that seam. So that will definitely make it more beautiful, more luxurious, like it's one continuous piece. Super simple, easy to do. When you go to mark the back of your pelt, your fabric, again, maybe you want to use like, a chalk marker or something like that where you can easily see it. You don't want to use any heat. That's something else too. We're not going to press this. We're not going to bring heat to this. So no friction pens or anything like that. Use a chalk mark. It's on the back side. You can easily see it. No one will see it. Chances are you're going to line this. So it's fine. So again, super simple to do. When you go to do your hem though, if this were a coat, and again, this is the cross body. This is going across your body. Then it's perfectly fine. I just do it with a rotary cutter. If it's a straight line, boom. I don't care that I don't have that fur in my seam there, because ultimately I'm going to line this, sew it with another piece of fabric, and then you're going to turn up your hem. So again, this will be on the inside, but you'll have a lining sewn this to this side, and that'll be your hem edge. So we see it turned over, so it looks very luxurious. So it's okay to cut just hacking through crosswise when you're going to hem it. Or again, this could be a sleeve, because you're going to have that hem, and that's going to be your outside edge. So you see that beautiful fluffy fur, just like on my sample here. Then you see that beautiful edge. So it's super simple, easy to do, very fast, just with those couple of little tips and tricks, and you will do a beautiful job. So already, whoa, that was, as I always say, a whirlwind of information. But I know everybody's got lots to do today for Valentine's, and maybe run out and get a couple of gifts. Or again, check out our Inspire tab for that cute little heart flies free embroidery, or another free embroidery design for Valentine's Day. There's lots there on janome.ca. And again, check out our upcoming bag making class in March. So you'll see all that information there. Oh, and then, of course, at 3 o'clock today, just in an hour and a half, I will be back live on the Janome Sewing Machines Facebook page for some more embroidery tips and tricks. But I also, if it all works out well, I will be streaming live to the Janome Canada Facebook page as well, Janome Canada YouTube channel, the Janome HQ YouTube channel, Janome America YouTube. So I hope that all works out. So that's coming up this afternoon at 3 p.m. So I hope to see you then. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.